Welcome to our Social Enterprise Fundamentals video series. This is the final of 3 videos on the topic of designing for impact. While many people interested in starting or developing a social enterprise focus directly on their organisation and their idea, there is strong evidence that successful social enterprises involve a complex network of organisations and individuals. Building, understanding and managing this complex stakeholder network is an important task for any social entrepreneur, and we suggest that this process starts early in the life of a social enterprise. In our first topic, we introduce the idea of a social enterprise's ecosystem. This is an organisational level view that puts a social enterprise at the centre of a number of different groups or stakeholders that each contribute to the success, or not, of the social enterprise. A stakeholder is anyone, be it an individual or organisation, that has an interest in the social enterprise. By interest, we mean that the stakeholder is potentially impacted, affected, or involved in some way. It is worth noting that the idea of having an interest also extends to people who won't really be impacted or affected, but they think that they will or might be, so they are interested. So, let's take a look at a social enterprise's ecosystem with this idea of stakeholders in mind, noting that these are not in order of importance. Remember, a social enterprise exists within certain environmental conditions, its context, if you like. This includes the current government policy and economic context, so here we find our first group or stakeholders. Because a social enterprise's primary purpose is to create community or public benefit, various government departments have an interest or a stake in its achievement of its social purpose, even if they don't yet know about the social enterprise, or perhaps seem very interested. It is important that a social enterprise has a good understanding of which aspects of government policy it relates to, and therefore which policy levers it can pull to garner support and engage its government stakeholders. Remember too, that in Australia there are 3 levels of government. The policy levers for each level will be different. For example, an employment enterprise that is aimed at young people might relate to a local government's youth strategy and also its local employment strategy. At state level, it might relate to state education and training policy and housing. And in Victoria, it will also link with the social enterprise strategy and social procurement framework. And finally, at a Commonwealth or federal level, there might be a link with social services as well. Next, let's look at a social enterprise's beneficiaries. These are the people who benefit from the social enterprise's social purpose or mission. We have already discussed in a previous video that depending on the type of social enterprise and its business model, beneficiaries may also be customers, but often these are 2 different groups of stakeholders. It is critically important that a social enterprise identifies, clearly defines, and focuses on understanding the needs of its beneficiary stakeholders at a deep level. Beneficiaries are the reason a social enterprise exists, so listening to and engaging these stakeholders in the design and ongoing operation of a social enterprise is essential. Customers are another important stakeholder group in a social enterprise's ecosystem. They are, if you like, the powerhouse of the enterprise because they are the group that buy the social enterprise's products or services and enable it to keep operating. Therefore, understanding the needs of this group and ensuring that the social enterprise is fulfilling these needs so as to continue to have a strong flow of income is also critically important. Sometimes there is a tension in a social enterprise's ecosystem between balancing the needs of the beneficiary stakeholders and the customer stakeholders. This is one of the many tightropes that people running social enterprises encounter on a daily basis. For example, it may be critically important for someone to access work in a social enterprise that provides catering for business meetings, but it is also critically important that the order arrives on time for the meeting. So, the social enterprise needs to ensure that its beneficiary, employees, are supported to meet the needs of its commercial customers, and this can add further costs to the enterprise in terms of more staff needed to achieve this result. Another large group in the social ecosystem is the resource providers. In reality, this may be many different stakeholders or stakeholder groups because each may have a different interest in providing resources to the social enterprise. For example, in this group we have advisors and intermediary organisations that provide assistance to the social enterprise to start up or grow. Some of these stakeholders may have government or philanthropic funding to provide this support, so they have an interest in finding social enterprise to assist and seeing them progress and succeed, but they may not require a financial payment from the social enterprises for that support. Others may provide advice on a fee-for-service basis as consultants, so their interest is different again, which makes them a different type of stakeholder because they have a direct financial interest in being paid as well as supporting the social enterprise. Others may provide support or advice on a voluntary or pro bono basis. Their interests are again different. They may be looking to simply be involved in creating social value, or they may also be looking to develop their own skills and networks or to augment their CV. There are lots of good reasons why someone may assist a social enterprise, but it is important that the social enterprise understands these reasons so that both they and the resource provider are satisfied with the outcome. Another important group of resource providers are those that provide finance and funding. Again, this is a diverse group of stakeholders that include philanthropic grant makers such as trusts and foundations, which are required by law to give away at least 4% of their funds a year, and these gifts must be to charitable organisations, which includes social enterprises that have charitable status. You can refer to the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, or ACNC, link in the resources for more information on charitable status. Other stakeholder groups within the finance and funding resource providers are impact investors who, by definition, are looking to make investments that generate a financial return and a measurable social impact. Even within this group, there are stakeholder subgroups. Some impact investors are only looking to have their principal investment returned and are more interested in generating the social impact, while others are seeking a balance between social impact and a greater level of financial return. Again, it is important for any social enterprise to understand its specific stakeholders' interests to ensure that they are aligned with what the social enterprise is hoping and able to achieve. Noting the importance of collaborations and networks for social enterprise success, complementary organisations are again a diverse group of stakeholders that may be either partners that directly contribute to the social enterprise's social value creation process, or it might be a business partner, such as a key supplier, that is involved in the social enterprise's commercial value chain. Each collaborator will have a different relationship and reason for collaborating with the social enterprise, and it is important to understand these. Finally, competitors are a group of stakeholders that compete with the social enterprise for customers and other resources. In a sense, their interest is in seeing the social enterprise not do well so that they can, particularly when it comes to winning the loyalty of customers. Again, it is important for a social enterprise to understand their competitors and what they do, so that it can devise tactics and strategies to be commercially successful. Otherwise, its social impact will not be sustainable. One way that a social enterprise can gain a better understanding of its ecosystem and stakeholders is to start with an ecosystem map. This tool, which is included in the workbook attached to the video, helps with mapping out the specific stakeholder groups for a social enterprise. A social enterprise founder or manager can, at any time, identify and map out its ecosystem in this way, noting, at a high level, its beneficiary stakeholders, its government and policy stakeholders, its customers, its various resource provider stakeholders, its collaborators, partners and suppliers, and its competitors. Next, it is important to understand the interests of each stakeholder in the social enterprise's ecosystem, and therefore assess if they are aligned. This is a powerful way of eventually developing a stakeholder engagement strategy for the social enterprise to help manage and optimize each stakeholder relationship. A stakeholder analysis tool is a good way of doing this. A stakeholder analysis helps us to understand each of the stakeholders in a social enterprise's ecosystem, their interests, that is, what they stand to gain or lose from the success of the social enterprise, and how much influence each stakeholder has towards the social enterprise's success. For example, if the stakeholder is a philanthropic grant maker that is providing funding essential for the social enterprise, they are a resource provider. Their interest is in making the grant to a responsible organisation that will create social value as part of fulfilling their fiduciary and statutory duty, so their interest is positively aligned with the success of the social enterprise, and given their grant is essential for the startup, their influence is rated as high. Once a social enterprise's stakeholder ecosystem is mapped and analysed, it becomes a powerful way of planning for startup and managing ongoing relationships. Of course, a social enterprise's ecosystem will change over time, as will some of the stakeholders, so it is important to treat the ecosystem as dynamic. So, to recap, social enterprises involve a complex network of stakeholders. Building, understanding, and managing this complex stakeholder network is important for social enterprise success and should start early in the life of a social enterprise. It is possible to map out this network of stakeholders, or ecosystem, and then undertake analysis to understand the nature of each relationship so that it can be managed well. There are tools in your workbook to help with this. Why not have a go at mapping and analysing a social enterprise ecosystem and its stakeholders? Thanks for joining us. This video was produced by the Social Startup Studio, an initiative of the Centre for Social Impact at Swinburne University of Technology.